Hello, Taylor Elwood here with Sacred Masculinity Podcast. It's been a little while since I've been here. I've been away, busy with my day job, and so I have not been as present as I would like to be. But I'm back, and today I wanted to talk about the importance of learning how to forgive yourself, because I think this is a really important key to how you move forward in life. And a lot of times, with men's work, this is one of the challenges I think that all men face is how to forgive themselves. We aren't really taught how to forgive ourselves. I think this is something that people deal with in general. But what I found, like, for myself as a man, is that, and what I've observed with other men, is that we are really hard on ourselves. We punish ourselves for our mistakes. And the reason why boils down to, quite simply, the fact that a lot of times we've been indoctrinated to do that. When I was growing up, my dad would be really hard on me. My stepmom would be hard on me. I suspect that their parents were really hard on them. My mom would be hard on me a lot of the time. So, one of the coping mechanisms I learned early on, or tried to learn as a protective mechanism, was that if I was harder on myself than my parents were, maybe they wouldn't be hard on me. Never worked. I never found that to be the case. I found that they were, when I look back on it now, I realized that that was an erroneous thought process, but it was one that I put into place because I thought that was how you handle these situations. It also really didn't help that I didn't know how to love myself. Well, later on in my life, I'd find that I was still being hard on myself a lot of the times. I was still being pretty brutal. And the key, ultimately, in the end, is that I had to change my approach to my life. For a long time, I loathed myself. I absolutely loathed myself. And there was really no good reason. I mean, I'll admit I've done my share of activities that I'm not proud of. I've made some mistakes, but I think all of us do. That's called being human. We all make mistakes. And the question is, can we learn from those mistakes? Can we recognize the impact of our actions? And can we do our best to change and do something different and become a better person in the process? That's all that can really be asked of us. And yet, so often we end up asking ourselves to be perfect. We ask ourselves to somehow get everything right and to never make a mistake in our lives, and to somehow just get it all done in such a way that we're always doing things correctly. And this is really just brutal. So I want to recommend to you that, in fact, you really don't want to approach your life that way. And that one of the best things that you could do is to be kind and to be gentle with yourself. But that involves learning how to love yourself and forgive yourself. And that's one of the areas of work that is essential to men's work. We can talk about this in relationship to therapy, that, like learning how to forgive yourself. But I also think that really that this is something that can be done too, in regards to just like learning how to improve your life, is forgive yourself for the mistakes that you've made. You can ask for forgiveness from other people and they can give it to you, but if you don't learn how to forgive yourself, then you're just going to punish yourself, and actually in the end you'll end up doing the same thing over and over again, because you haven't found closure within yourself. And I know this because there was a period of time where I was engaged in behavior that was very that was somewhat harmful, and I never really forgave myself for it until after I finally got out of the circumstance that I was in. And part of it was the circumstance I was in, but a huge part of that is I was keeping myself in a situation where I was miserable and unhappy on the inside, because I was trying to be someone I didn't really want to be. And I was doing it to make someone else happy. Once I realized that I didn't want to continue living my life that way, I made some changes. One of the inevitable conflicts that I came up with was, how do I forgive myself? And Part of that involved actually being able to talk with other men about where I'd been and mistakes I made. I thought that I was alone in a lot of ways, which is really unrealistic. I wasn't alone. I know other men who've made the same mistake that I made, but I felt that way. But when I started talking with other men, and I came to realize that in fact I'm not alone, that other men have made the same mistake that I've made. It made a significant difference in my life. It changed the way that I approach things because suddenly I was like, I'm not alone. And I can talk with these other men and I can see that we're all in a similar place of suffering. And it doesn't justify our choices, it doesn't make those choices right. But I can also see what I can do differently, what I can do better. And I can start loving myself and respecting myself because I see that I'm not alone. And I see that as a result that I'm really just a fallible human being. And so instead of holding myself up to this impossible standard of perfection, this pedestal that I'm supposed to somehow be on and be okay with, I can just be honest and say, you know what? I've made some mistakes in my life. I've screwed some things up and I can let go. This is really important work that we need to do with ourselves. And I share that with you because I think a lot of times people are very hard on themselves, very harsh with who they are, because they hold themselves up on this standard, this impossible standard. And they hold it up because it's a standard that was set for them by their parents, by someone else. And so they feel like they have to do that. You don't have to do that. You don't have to hold yourself up to an impossible standard. You're not doing yourself any favor by doing that. So I want you to forgive yourselves. And how you can do that is first start by implementing a self-love practice. If you need help with that, contact me. I'm more than happy to give you some ideas and suggestions, but start loving yourself. When I started looking in the mirror and telling myself that I love myself, that's when I made a significant difference in my life. It was something that helped me to realize that I could be kind and gentle to myself, that I could love myself, and that as a result, I could stop being so hard on myself. So I would start telling myself that I love myself every time I started to feel harsh toward myself. But the other thing that I did is I stopped punishing myself. I started creating better self-care routines. I started telling myself I love myself, but I also started doing things like taking better care of my feet, taking better care of my lips, taking better care of myself by exercising, by using lip balm, by doing other things. Some of these activities I already did, but some of these activities I didn't. And you would think something as simple as applying lip balm wouldn't be a punishment, but I realized in retrospect that there was a part of me that loathed myself enough that I wanted to hurt myself on a regular basis. I was punishing myself for not living up to my dad's idea of who I should be, of not living up to my stepmom or my mom. And I stopped. I realized that, you know what? I don't need to live up to those people anymore. I need to figure out who I want to be and live my life according to my own code of behavior. And recognize that I'm not always going to be perfect. I'm going to make mistakes. And that, I need to be accountable for that and own the mistakes, but also that I need to love myself and care enough about myself to live by a code of behavior that's defined by me instead of by someone else. And when I did that, that's when I started to like myself and love myself. And I started forgiving myself because I no longer had to live up to someone else's standard. I no longer had to pretend to be someone I wasn't. So that's what I recommend to you. And really, this advice could apply to both men and women, or to any other gender identification. I want to be very clear about that. But for the men out there, I offer this especially because I see a lot of men who are really hard on themselves, and a lot of times it's because they've been held to unfair standards of behavior. All right. Thank you so much for watching this. And I'm back and I look forward to making more videos for you. Take care.